Yeah.
Right, now it's saying you're live. Right.
Here we go.
Right, well, we've got 3 people on so far. That must be your mum, Burge, my grandma, and Simon, your wife or something.
No, it's actually just us.
Oh, is it? People. That's probably it. Right.
Probably
guys, let's just see if there's 5 people on. Bear with me 2 seconds. I'm just going to drop it into the chat. There's 7. But
I see us all live on X, which is good to see.
Very good. We've got the title in there. Episode 1 is underway, folks. Let me just drop it into the private group. Hold on 2 seconds. Ding, 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 ding. Hold on. Founders chat. Right, guys, we are live. There's 18 on so far. That is incredible. Right, there's 20. Let's just let the builders, the numbers build up. Folks, for you guys who are kind of just tuning in, if you're seeing this live stream, this is the first time we've done this. Actually, it's the second. The first test we did was a bit of a pilot. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Despite some technical issues, we actually have some really insightful and kind of high premise views on NFTs, crypto, and more recently, some of the stuff that TokenWorks is doing around their kind of punk strategy token or their punkster token, however you want to pronounce it. This is a newsletter from Carrot Lane, which is a business I've started. I'm the writer behind some of the stuff that you'll be seeing on the timeline, and almost in like a Good Vibes Club style, I've brought in some really smart and good communicators from the community in the form of Simon and Burge. And you may recognize the 2 of them from being on some of my live streams before. So Burge, do you just want to introduce yourself? Just say a bit about your background and obviously where you're from, and then we can move on to Simon.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm based near London, been in crypto and NFTs since 2021. Been in VFriends since day 1, or even before it launched as a project. Was a moderator there for 2 years, founded the VFriends UK group, and I'm now doing some contract work for them. But I've really been fascinated by this TokenWorks, what they've come up with the strategy tokens, and punk strategy, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you, Jaden, and with Simon too.
Awesome. Simon, I know that you were someone obviously you joined my newsletter, which I'm very grateful for. We had a one-to-one Zoom call, and we immediately hit it off because we had some similar experiences from 2021, although you had kind of got into some different ecosystems. And then I got you onto a live stream. I thought, hold on a second, this guy's communication is unbelievable. And then I've kind of find out that you do it as a job. So just want to give us a bit of background about, maybe some of your business stuff and how you got into Web3.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was about 5 years ago, rather like you guys. And it was a friend just said, do you want to come along and I can give you a bit of a talk on this thing called Bitcoin? And of course, I started there. And then within about 3 months, I went down the great rabbit hole that are NFTs, and I haven't come out. And I'm still deep down in there. And I actually just wrote an article because I'm also a leader and communication skills trainer.
Yeah.
And I wrote an article because what I really want to do is help businesses to have the courage and the knowledge to embrace Web3 from a business perspective. And I just said in the article, the strange thing is, after all these years, 5 years ago, I suddenly found a place which feels like home.
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit cheesy, but you're kind of suddenly connected with people who, for some bizarre reason, have the same kind of feelings about, particularly NFTs.
Yeah,
so
I know
that's
what
kind
you mean.
of where I'm at.
I think this is why people take exception to their kind of bags being criticized, because now it's no longer just the financial element. It's actually the friendship groups. You're actually saying you're saying things that are related to people's friendships groups, which is why they take exception to it. And you get in this kind of trend of influencers saying, "Oh no, well, I'm just telling you what's happening." No, actually, what you're doing is, I've built relationships with these people over the last kind of 3-4 years.
Yeah.
And now you're saying something negative about something I'm in, and that directly relates to kind of the people I hang around. Guys,
yeah,
thanks for the intro. Really appreciate it. We've now got 50. We've got 50 on the live stream. For those of you in the live stream, whatever platform you're on, please, please, please share this. The point of us doing this is we are 3 enthusiasts. We love NFTs. We love crypto. Recently got into the strategy tokens. And we just want to share some of our kind of honest thoughts about what's happening in the market and kind of bring some of you along on the journey with us, which I think is going to be really exciting. So, guys, obviously you were there in 2021. We had these huge parabolic rises in NFTs, and we've had probably the most brutal bear market with in anything I've ever experienced, whether it's stock, even the ICO crash in 2018. How are you feeling, Burge? To start with you, I mean, how are you feeling about the current NFT market at the moment? Just on a macro level, are you leaning into buying NFTs, or are you kind of holding back a little bit, or how are you feeling?
I mean, I'm leaning in. I think a lot of people are in the same position as perhaps we are, where you're in this situation where we invested heavily prior, and so now with the market down, you're trying to, if you have lots of revenue streams that are regularly kind of giving you income to play around with, that's great. But if you don't, and you've invested a lot of your money before, then obviously that's depreciated with the kind of bear market, and so it's harder to add to your positions, let's just say. But I mean, honestly, I think the bear market was always going to happen. I think this is the first cycle.
Did you think it would be as bad as it was?
I mean, honestly, yes. Especially with having heard Gary. I think the caveat to that would be, I'm not sure I knew it was going to last this long.
Yeah.
Just because we always like to say in the NFT and even the crypto space, everything is like a week is like a year.
Yeah.
Compared to like the traditional markets. And so with how long it felt the bull market lasted, I didn't think the bear would last quite this long. But honestly, I'm not too surprised where we are currently and where market sentiment is either, because this is the first cycle. This is the first major cycle, at least since most of us have been in the space, and it's kind of like this thing where it needs to get over this bear market for people to start to see and start to believe again. But it was always going to be rough. You think back to like 2013 crypto, when it had its it had its pump and then its fall. Like, I'm sure that was extremely tough back then. I'm sure it fell down to levels where a lot of people were like, well, what's happening here? It's been at this for a while. And I think that's the same thing with NFTs. It's a lot of uncertainty, mainly a lot of fear that, is this a fad? Is this something that's going to disappear? Or is this something that's going to continue? And it almost needs to complete this bear cycle. We need to head into another bull for people to have the confidence to say, oh, that's one full cycle completed now. Okay, now I can start to believe in this and start to bet on this long term.
Yeah, interesting, mate. It's an interesting take. Simon, are you like, just given what Burge said, are you looking at any kind of particular NFT projects, or is there anything that kind of stands out to you? I think one of the things I kind of notice is that when there's less noise on the timeline, you actually notice a bit more what the actual builders are doing, and the ones who had kind of raised all this money in 2021 have gone quiet. And actually, you probably know the quote, Burge, around you can see what happens when the tide goes out and who's been skinny dipping or whatever, however that goes. But that for me has been the thing that's kind of stood out. Is there anything in terms of projects or because I know with you, Simon, is that you are in loads of different projects. Is there any particular projects that kind of stand out like a sore thumb to you? Do you think this is a real sleeper?
Well, it's interesting because as a sentiment thing, first of all, the weird thing is I know a lot of people, quite understandably, are feeling a little nervous about the state of things. And of course, there isn't the liquidity across the whole market. It's not just NFTs, but NFTs suffer. But what I'm feeling hopeful. I'm actually feeling really positive, strangely. And I think it's because, as you've just said, when the tide goes out and you're just left with the people building, it gives me a lot more hope than actually when it's too hyper and hyped up, because everything's sort of happening at the same time. Whereas right now, and the great irony for me is that just as things are low in liquidity and things aren't moving that much, some people, some collections, some founders and builders are actually doing really great things that 3-4 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, we're thinking, God, this is going to take ages, it's never going to happen. And so from the big players like Otherside, about Yuga with Otherside, Nexus launching today in a few hours possibly. I'm completely ridiculously excited for that. And but also I think, I'm a big fan, as you know, of people doing real things. And I think Chimpsters, I think Good Vibes Club, who I'm not in yet, and I really want to be in, because we've talked about this. It's about the quality of the people, both in terms of their experience, their ability to do real things, and also because they're just really good people, which is possibly a naive barometer for me. But if I feel that that's there as well as all the other qualities, that's a massive pull for me.
I think it's the most important thing, mate. I think you're
it shows their integrity and their values and who they are and what they stand for. World of Women, I think, they're starting to move. There's so many really great teams, great people, and I think the time is about supporting.
Did you lean into the Chimpers because they were UK based, and it might have actually offered a bit of an opportunity to connect with the UK community? Or
it was interesting. I was seeing more and more on my timeline, which is, and just really interesting and I think compelling stats coming through about what they were doing in social media, Instagram, TikTok. Then just hearing how they were communicating with the community. I went into Discord, just saw how they were, very real people. And then when I did join, and I did find out about the brothers and about their UK based, I thought, yes, there's a UK based team. It's nice, just up the road from where I am. And, that was nice. And then when I joined, they were immediately in touch, very personable,
This is something I mentioned before, and I notice it, and I don't know if there's a trend here with the brothers, the two sets of brothers, is that there's kind of this boots on the ground feel. I DM'd Jacob, who's one of the co-founders of Chimpers, and he replied to me at 2 a.m. and it got me thinking, like, actually, there's no airs and graces here. This guy has probably launched the most successful UK NFT project, although I'm sure someone in the comments will probably correct me. But he's still got the time to message people back. And it's that kind of boots on the ground, that kind of messaging people directly that I really rate. And it's the reason why I miss Good Vibes Club, because actually on X, I think at the time they had like 14,000 Twitter followers. And I just didn't think they were going to be able to generate the demand. But little did I know, kind of like under the hood, they were building this thing in a private Discord, and Tyler was messaging, Tyler and his brother Chris were messaging people directly and kind of taking them along for the journey. It's amazing. Even Jacob's brother, he had a YouTube channel which had 40,000 subscribers, and he was teaching them how to do art. So they had these kind of not secret societies, but these kind of these built-in audiences already. So it's not luck that these guys have kind of done what they've done. I'm just reading in the comments. We've got a question from Martin on LinkedIn. He says, "How are the current macroeconomic pressures, like rates of inflation, affecting valuation models used for different NFT types, PFP versus utility? In which segment do you believe offers the best risk-adjusted return today?" And I can pass this on to you guys as well, Martin. None of this is financial advice. I tend to keep the NFT thing really simple. The reason why NFTs made sense to me is because you can see that they have built-in supply friction, and they have the same conditions applied as physical assets. So now your only thing to think is, well, where is the demand going to come from? And then it becomes really easy because it's actually the attention the asset gets that leads to the buying flows. So then you think, okay, well, there's a human behind it that can drive the attention. So usually we had this meta in 2021 of a whole bunch of marketing guys got into this because they could get a lot of attention and drive the price up of these things. Tom Bilyeu, Ty Lopez, obviously Gary Vee being someone who's hung around. So the attention they were getting were driving these assets up, but it needs something to sustain that. And you've got to look for sustained attention. So someone who has the ability to drive sustained demand. In my mind, VFriends Series 1, there's 10,000 of them. Gary has 60 million followers across social media. So that to me is a good bet. But he can get hit by a bus. He might decide, maybe he has something happen in his family and he decides he's going to stop doing business for the next year or two. I think, in my opinion, again, not financial advice, is that the better risk-adjusted stuff is either some of the X-Copy and Beeple, which if you have your wits about you, you can actually get some at a low entry price because the marketplaces don't aggregate the artist's work properly or efficiently. But also there's some historical stuff where it's essentially just a bet on us becoming more digital. Some of this stuff predates CryptoPunks. So the long answer, Martin, is bet on people, bet on history, or bet on things that are culturally significant. And the two most culturally significant artists are Beeple and X-Copy. And if you do a bit of research, you can actually get some of their work at a really good entry price, in my opinion. But again, not financial advice. Did either of you two have any thoughts around that? Around like some of the risk-adjusted stuff that you might be looking at? Burge, I know you're a big one on curio cards. Is there any?
Yes. Yeah. I definitely a big fan on. I think historical projects is one of those ones where it's a long-term play. Yes, you kind of have to decide when you want to lock up your funds in that type of play because you're really in it for the long term. But at the same time, you're kind of avoiding that risk of there being an active team, them needing to do things year in year, month on month. Because I think that play curio cards, they could do absolutely nothing. The X account that is run by, I think, the community or one of the co-founders, that could go completely quiet for the next 3 years, and I don't think it would really affect it because it's a play on more people getting into NFTs and then looking back at, oh wait, hang on a second, what was the first NFT on Ethereum? What was the first PFP, which would be the CryptoPunks, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a play that more and more people will get into NFTs, digital assets, and then more and more people, as a result, will care about the history and go back to look, just like we see in cards, in Pokemon cards, sports cards especially. A lot of collectors and investors look for the rookie. They look for the first time a player had a card, like it will be like the Michael Jordan or the 2003 Topps Chrome LeBron James. Like that's their rookie card. The same thing will happen with NFTs, where people will look and they'll look back and they'll try and find historically what was first. And that will be stuff like rare Pepes, curio cards, CryptoPunks. And for me, curio cards is very low price comparatively to rare Pepes or to CryptoPunks. So that's why I think it's quite a good risk-adjusted play, as Martin mentioned. I just want to quickly jump in on something Simon said earlier, which was, I feel like when we're in a bear market, it becomes a lot clearer as to who's doing what and who's actually driving demand and who's actually, you not only do you see the effort of all the founders and the teams, but you also see the results much, much clearer. In a bull market, it's like everything it's all noise. It's so noisy that it's hard to pick out the good bits in amongst the shit. Whereas in a bear market, it's quite clear where who's operating, who's actually building for the long term, and who's dropped the ball. or who's run out of money. Many teams, as you kind of alluded to, Jaden, ran out of money. You know, the 2021 founders have disappeared because they ran out of funds, and they weren't able to keep operating. And the other thing is they never built revenue streams. So yeah, that was just something I wanted to chime in on.
I mean, I was just going to say briefly that obviously liquidity is a central theme here as well. I mean, I think things will be changing. And there will always be speculation and flippers and people doing that. I do like the feeling at the moment where you feel that's not quite so present. Sure, it'll come back with lots of liquidity in the market. So only three things I was thinking about was that one was, you know, talk about shining a light on NFTs. Interestingly, yesterday I was doing this pilot with some friends and colleagues about my Web3 education for businesses. And you know what, they were not really interested. I thought they would be nerds like me in, you know, how blockchain works, Bitcoin, all those elements. And they were really nice, really honest with me. I said, look, the moment their ears pricked up was when they heard about tokenization, because they could see immediately a link to how they can create value for their existing customers and clients in Web2. And it got me thinking that maybe, you know, as people become more aware generally of tokenization and experience the benefits, you know, beyond our pursuit of NFTs, that it's long term, it's going to shine a light more on then, that's the connection to NFTs, and that's what they do. The other thing is, I mentioned it before, I know, about the seamless onboarding of, I think, collections, and founders are able to find mechanisms for seamless onboarding of people to experiences where they don't need to fiddle around with wallets and get to understand this and worry about that. I do think, for example, I think with the other side, what they're doing right now, and is they are making that happen through, you know, you just don't need a wallet in terms of, you do, but you don't even know you've got one.
I've noticed Gary did a similar sort of thing, hey Burge, with the wallet integration.
Big deal recently as well. Big push from VFriends, and it's always been something in the back of their head, but they've actually gone ahead. They've made a crypto wallet on the back end of your VFriends account. So just like a traditional Web2 account where you have your email, your password. Well, actually, now that they've shifted, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the new kind of security features with passkeys or two-factor authentication and kind of scrapping the password altogether. But they put a wallet on the background. It's a privy wallet. And it's just like any other EVM wallet, so similar to a MetaMask, similar to a Phantom. And it's there on the back end of your VFriends account. So now anyone who comes now and creates a VFriends account is going to automatically have set up a wallet. You know, there might be a couple things you need to click, but they're going to automatically be prompted to, and they will end up setting up a wallet. And what that has kind of allowed, I mean, basically what they've done is they've taken the book games collection, they've ported it over to Base, and they're utilizing that wallet. So it was 2 clicks for me to get my book game tokens minted on Base, and they're in my Privy wallet. I can see them on OpenSea, and more importantly, I can burn for treasure chests and burn islands, which I know, you know, a lot of people might not have heard of in the VFriends world, but they're essentially these events where you can burn your book game NFTs for rewards or treasures, and it's really seamless. So yeah, to Simon's point, it's that effort to actually try and make things smooth, to try and make things easy for a lot of new people, which is what is going to move the needle going forward. Because if the NFT space stays as just all of us in the NFT and crypto space, it will never go anywhere. It has to grow. And for it to grow, you have to see things get a lot easier for the everyday person to be able to interact without the effort.
Just a moment, guys. We've reached our first 100 viewers on a live stream.
Let's go.
Those who know me know I come from a cricket background, and 100 is quite a significant score. So we're just have a 3 seconds moment of silence. No, I'm only joking.
A minute of silence.
Sorry, Simon.
a minute of silence.
No, yeah, we'll just sit here in silence. To be honest, we'll probably
Cameras
get more
off.
viewers because people will be like, "What the fuck are these guys doing?" They're just sat there not saying anything to each other.
Yeah.
But just to the folks who are here, the 101 of you, if you could, I'd really appreciate it if you could share this stream. We've between the three of us, obviously, Burge and Simon are community members of Carrot Lane. Obviously, I'm the founder of Carrot Lane. We've decided to pull together and start a weekly show around things that we are really interested in: NFTs, crypto, a few market insights. Obviously, none of this is financial advice, but also some of the token work stuff, which is really interesting. And I'm going to kind of come on to that in a second. I just want to circle back. Martin on LinkedIn has just dropped a message. He said, NFTs are here to stay. I'm just wondering how there's long-term sustainability with regards to demand. I have some personal thoughts around this, and I think a lot of people really mid-curve this, which is when the price goes down, people look for someone to blame. Like they look at the founders. I mean, we've just seen Ape Fest. There were some monster announcements, Simon. You could probably speak to this. And actually, the price went down. There were some liquidator traders. The price dropped. The needle didn't really move. But what it actually highlights is that these assets are products of financial conditions. So people just need more money in their pockets for kind of discretionary spending. And then if you kind of like scan out a little bit, and if you listen to any of the stuff that Julian Patel does, Jamie Coots, Raoul Powell, if you listen to the stuff that they do around these business cycles and how these macro investors use like an ISM framework to kind of squeeze the juice out of the trade. And it's just the products of lower interest rates, inflation coming down. Obviously it is, but we'll feel the effects of it. And people having more money in their pockets for discretionary spending on things like luxury items, because these are trophy assets. They literally copy the secondhand luxury watch market. They're the same thing. Fine wines, whiskies, they're the same asset. So instead of shitting on a founder who's kind of working or has been working their asses off the last 3 years around price, just be a little bit patient, because it's my belief that as people go up this crypto wealth curve, and it's undeniable that a whole bunch of us are going to make money on coins, and it's going to go up by a shit ton, provided you're in those kind of top six. People ordinarily will look for expressive assets, and they'll look for a way to express. And unless you're a complete moron and you take a screenshot of your Coinbase balance and post it online, you're not going to have that same expression. And I think the expression now happens through NFTs. But there's this whole thing about it being, and I know there's a really good book, Steve, I can't remember his surname. He writes the Everything Token. It is an everything token, because now it's not just an asset that you can express to people online. It organizes community. It now becomes an asset that you can financialize through an internet signal. So you don't need to buy a house and then borrow against it. You can borrow against your NFTs. You can do all these things.
Yeah.
And because the underlying part of the NFT is a contract, it means the person who issues the NFT can add anything to the contract at any time. So that's kind of my thesis around it.
I was going to say, Jaden, the only thing I was going to say was I find myself keep going to kind of macro areas. Is I think also sustainability, if I'm thinking about that demand, for me will be as much to do with the experiences and the opportunities that owning brings. So the price will ebb and flow, but I would be compelled to be part of something and own something because of what it leads to, whether that's knowledge, connecting with people, experiences that I really enjoy, all those things. And I think if founders and collections and whoever it might be can sustain people's interest, regardless of price, I think that's the long-term aim. It's like being a really good business. You may get a little less money in the coffers, but if you can create value consistently for your customers, I think it's about creating value beyond finance.
I think so. I think it's funny in the same way that the coins, when they get battle tested and they have those huge drawdowns like Solana, I think the NFT communities have the same, except they're more immersive, like you've experienced. Because the thing about you, Simon, is you throw yourself into the communities you're in. You do all the meetups. Like obviously, you met a World of Women, all those sorts of things. So then all of a sudden, you've got these built-in friendship groups now, and then it's like, well, actually, it doesn't matter where the price of the token goes, because this is kind of like my season ticket to this this friendship group, and no one halfway through a season gives up their season ticket. One says, "Oh no, I just don't support this team anymore." Especially, and it's kind of like the Lindy effect of it. The longer it goes on, the safer the asset becomes, I think. So it's just,
I agree. And one last thing on that is, you know, if you sort of open to things and you step out of your bubble and your world that we all live in, and you actually go to these things and you connect with people, not by forcing it, but just by the experience of doing that, things happen that you would never expect to happen. Opportunities arise. I mean, I know that's very much about life generally, but
no, but look at us now.
You know, for me, I mean,
look at us now.
I mean, Jaden, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
I met Burge in a random hotel in London, and I think we might have because we had all of our.
Well, that sounds pretty dodgy. I mean, we should add some.
I'm slightly concerned, guys. I might leave now.
It was in the ladies' tour. No, I'm joking.
The first Be Friends UK meetup, right? And
that's
it was the first
first
time that we were seeing each other face to face after having connected online. And I'd made tons of connections as well, and now know tons of people over in America. But it was good to actually meet up with the VFriends UK lot for the first time and meet people. And look, here we are.
I love it.
3 or 4 years later.
The thing that people miss is the community aspect, right? I want to push the conversation on to some of the stuff TokenWorks is doing, which is kind of taking over the timeline. People will have seen that I've interviewed some of the founders. Some of the interviews or the recordings have gone viral, which is amazing, and it's kind of bringing more attention onto this this TokenWorks mechanism. And I think if we just start at the top with Punk Strategy. I mean, what are either of your thoughts? I'll just start with Burge. I mean, have you got any personal thoughts around Punk Strategy? What's your thoughts on the ecosystem? Do you think it's something that lasts into the future? Is it something that every NFT founder adopts? Or is it something that kind of burns and crashes?
No, I think this is here to stay. I think strategy tokens have redefined the game. It's gonna be the new meta going forward, especially into a bull market. I mean, it's had activity in this early part, but boy, I mean, if we were in a bull market, it would be a completely different picture. There would be no kind of people being bearish on it or fudding it. I don't think at all, because the flywheels would be going at max speed. What we're seeing is flywheels. We're seeing strategy tokens come out. The flywheel really gets going, and then we're seeing it slowly start to slow down. And people are kind of fudding it, and people are bearish on it, and they're like, well, they're not really taking point, or they're not really taking note of the fact that if we were in a bull market, it would be a completely different picture. Just coming on Punk Strategy, and actually, all of the strategy tokens right now. I do think what we're going to see is we're definitely going to see successful strategy tokens, more than one. It's not just going to be Punk Strategy. My kind of thesis on the whole thing is I own a few different ones. I own a bit in Vibe Strategy. I put a bit into Pain Strategy as well. But generally, my kind of recommendation is Punk Strategy, and that's just because it's the North Star. That's where everything's going to. So obviously, if people aren't familiar, 1% of the fees from Vibe Strategy is going to go to Punk Strategy, just like is 1% of any of the other strategy tokens goes into Punk Strategy. And so it's all feeding into Punk Strategy. And also, Punk Strategy is the one for me because it's based on the CryptoPunks collection, which I don't think it's going that is not going to disappear at all. It can't. It's the face in a lot of ways of NFTs, whether you like it or not. I honestly, when I talk to people, I usually refer to it, make the analogy of what Bitcoin is to crypto. I mean, when you talk to people, especially when crypto wasn't so well known or well accepted in the wider public, when you talk to people about crypto, they would say, "So, oh, you mean Bitcoin?" Like they actually equated Bitcoin and crypto as the same thing, like the same word.
It's funny you say that. When I speak to my normie friends about NFTs, they go, "Oh, the apes."
Yes,
so it's like
yes.
so it's kind of synonymous with the brand. I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, things don't normally turn out the way you always hope they do in crypto. So when this kind of came up on my radar, the first thing you look is where the failure points are. And my North Star with anything is and I'm going to repeat it, the attention leads to buying flows. So a couple of months ago, and I'll give you an example or contrast. A couple of months ago, Beeple posted something about Nakamigos. People speculated on it over a weekend, and it ran the price of Nakamigos up to half an Ethereum. That's his attention, but it's fleeting. So it's very short-lived, and it dies off an edge of a cliff. And what I do with these things is I look at my own behavior patterns. So when I bought a bit of Punk Strategy, I think the market cap was like 8 million, shared it with our private group when it was like 12, because I was kind of certain about it, but not sure. I was watching my own behavior patterns. So when the price was crashing, my immediate thought was to go to the NFT strategy site to see how close it was to buying the next Punk in the protocol. And then when the price went up, I was looking at, obviously, the price go up. So it was kind of like this double dopamine of actually everything is good because of this fee generation. A whole bunch of people kind of, I think, mid-curved it because they were like, no, well, it actually inhibits trading. No, actually what it does is it makes people hold on to the coin. The 10% rate makes people hold on to the coin. And the longer they hold on to it without actually trading out the asset means they're more likely to hold it into the future, a la Bitcoin. Like if you look at the data on Bitcoin, I think there's 78% of people haven't sold Bitcoin in 3 years. And it's the same behavior pattern. If you get into the habit of not trading in and out of an asset, it has that Lindy effect, and then you hold it over a longer period of time. There are some questions around discoverability. Like, can your average Joe, well, firstly, does anyone outside of the ecosystem know what fucking CryptoPunks are? Then it's like, can they search PNKSTR as a ticker symbol? I mean, these are simple things. And it's like, where do you search that? Like, so there's discoverability issues here that we can kind of talk about. But Simon, did you have any thoughts around the?
Yeah, and again, just general, really. I think that what I love about the tokens and the Punkster, for example, is it doesn't really care what people are saying. You know what I mean? You know, you can fund it. I don't really care. You know, I'm just getting on with what I get on with, and I react to what is happening in the market. But the thing is, I keep doing it, whether you like it or not. And then the other thing is, I do think some of the effect on the individual, the other strategy tokens will have a bearing on how the collections of the founders use that particular token. So if they use it to their benefit and it's part of and becomes integral to what they're doing and part of their vision and their plan, then what I love about something like a Good Vibes Club, Chimpsters, for example, they're so active around their token. So I think that that obviously is going to have a part to play. I'm going to be drawn to the founders who are passionate around their token, perhaps more than I would be around other ones. But always I'm most invested in Punkster, definitely, like 95%.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Ty Gio told me from Good Vibes Club, which was really interesting, it stood out in the conversation that we had, is that he wasn't trying to create a Solana runner. And actually it's the message behind it, which is, I think when people get into these coins, they have that expectation. But actually, you know, with token generated events, it actually hurts the community more than it provides for them. And then when you look at the kind of the way that you can integrate new entrants into the ERC20 and also provide value to the NFT holders, in kind of this, call it what it is, a flywheel, because I know people on the timeline say, stop calling it a fucking flywheel, but it is what it is. But I think the other factor that you can add into this is the underlying business a revenue generating business. And this is what I think is going to be the next thing. It's going to be like, obviously, Good Vibes Club had Toast TV. They were already a successful business. They launched an NFT project. They have a baked-in royalty, because I know there was a period there where the marketplaces got round, because the royalty element was on the marketplace level. And now they introduce a token that feeds back into the community, but also they're market buying their own token. So I think it's real clever that the way they've launched. And my overriding thing with all of this is, if something works, there is no reason for everyone else not to adopt it. And then you're hearing murmurs on the timeline about, like, you know, speaking to Jacob at Chimpers, and he's hearing other people who are like wanting to, you know, adopt it, or the token strat. We've seen with World of Woman, they've kind of gone their own path. Have you had any thoughts on the stuff that they're doing there, Simon? Or
yeah, I mean, it was interesting listening to V and Sweet Pea about their reasoning for going down that path, which I think was perfectly valid. Really, you know, it was about timing for them. They were not anti Token Works and the strategy token at all. It was timing, and they could see that from their point of view. And I think everyone has to make their own decision, don't they, about each collection must do what it must do. But for them, at this moment, it felt right to have everything channeled purely for their community, whether people can agree or not with that. I like it. I mean, as a community member, I quite like the really personalized element of what they've done, you know, even from the branding, their own little platform, the experience. I think neither are wrong. The bottom line is, they've said, look, this is paying homage to Adam and the team, because we are taking what they've done as an idea and doing it for us. So I think there shouldn't really be any long-term bad feelings between people, because it's all doing the same thing, really.
Yeah, it is. Do you think there is a kind of rebellious impression around forking something? Because I know that crypto has an altruistic view of stuff, which is, I know everything's open source and you can build on top of whatever, but there's kind of like this kind of like do the right thing with a percentage of people. Obviously, there's hucksters in the space and that sort of thing. I happen to agree with you, Simon, on that. And what really changed my view on it was the message that Victoria put in the group, Victoria Verdandi. And one of the things she said is that it makes sense that World of Women stand on their own 2 feet, because their strategic advantage is the fact that they will have outsized demand, because 50 or 60% of the participants who will potentially be female in the space aren't here yet. So a lot of these integrations, they should quite rightly build on their own. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good debate to have. I'm actually at some point going to get the team on the live stream. I've been speaking to V and sporadically to Sweet Pea as well. But I wanted to just do a head nod to Sersky, who's in the chat. He says in there, in the last few weeks, I found myself in some amazing communities that has been making bullish, or should we say, making me bullish for NFTs all over again. This is the thing. This is the thing about these strategy tokens. It's like they're a low entry. We're now leaning into projects that ordinarily probably wouldn't have leaned into, because we've got our tribes. But now, hold on a second, there's like this lower entry. Like, I would not have ordinarily spent 0.6 of an Ethereum on a community I wasn't really in or understood. But if I bought some of their strategy token, it kind of gives me a feel almost like a bit of a lead magnet in marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of warms me up, and then over time, my risk appetite improves. I'll just bring you up on that one, Bird. You're obviously nodding your head there.
Yeah, because I'm actually, whilst we're having this call, I'm actually, I don't own any Good Vibes Club NFTs, but I had bought some of the Vibe Strategy token, and right now I'm creating a tweet to enter one of the raffles, and it's a raffle for people who hold Vibe Strategy. So I'm basically, they're not like, they're including me as one of the people in their community.
Right.
instead of trying to factionalize, like, or instead of only kind of paying back to the NFT holders, they're trying to welcome everyone in, and that makes me more likely at the end of the day to go ahead and pick up one of their NFTs when I have the ability to do so. But right now, I'm curating a tweet to enter this raffle where they're giving away a Good Vibes Club NFT plus 69K Vibe Strategy tokens. And it's for everyone who owns any. If you own, how much is it? If you own I think it's 69,000 as well. Let me check. Yeah, if you have a blue badge, which if you head over to the Good Vibes Club website, it is for anyone who owns 69K. So if you own 69K Vibe Strategy, if you own Vibe Strategy, head on over to the account, activate your account, and you'll see what badges you have. And they're paying back the people who are holding their token. And it's not actually, it's their native token, but they've adopted it. Just like that was actually the part I really liked in the call with you, Jaden, with Tyler and you, was how they said, look, we community bought it. We're one of the we're in with the community here. This wasn't like a massive liquidity event for us. We wanted this to be and the reason why they did that is because they wanted a token that was aligned with the NFTs. And I think that's a conversation that isn't talked about enough. That usually when NFT projects launch a token, it detracts from the NFTs. They almost create two different groups. And I really like what Good Vibes Club are doing. And just it kind of fit in perfectly with what you were saying, Jaden.
And actually, just on that very briefly here with World of Women and the Wowster token, what's interesting is that if you purchase the Wowster token, they're doing these airdrops randomly of the NFTs to
I've
the
seen
people,
that's very cool,
which is quite nice. And then if you have a bit more than a certain level, say 450,000 or 400,000, something like that, that's opening you up for other rewards. So it's and they were saying, and I think I agree with this, it's also a fun part of the whole experience, isn't it? It's bringing things to life, and you're not just waiting for things to happen. It's actually giving you that kind of engagement beyond just the NFTs. So again, if I say, if it's used well, used thoughtfully and intelligently, it can be really great for any community.
I mean, I think the only downside probably with Punk's strategy, because obviously the founders are in control of buying the protocol NFTs, and actually they can change the multiplier, or they can select it right at the beginning. So instead of it being a 1.2x multiplier, they can do it at 1.1 realistic price. So obviously, if we go through a period where, say, NFTs get squeezed, what you don't want to do is have a whole bunch of these assets that are not off the market. They're basically relisted at a premium, and then you've got this big daylight gap. We've already seen that when there's a gap between the protocol tokens and the CryptoPunks floor price, is they dump the token, because in that distance is time. Because you're like, actually, it's going to take a whole bunch of time for us to go back to the protocol token. And people just aren't patient in crypto. They're just like, well, I'm not going to fucking wait for that. So they dump their token. And then, but also what it does, like you mentioned earlier, Simon, is it generates fees. So it buys the next one. And then the whole flywheel thing starts again. What do you make of, just throw this back to you two, like, one of the unknowns about all of this, it still remains an unknown. I saw a tweet today from Adam to say that the, I could probably get it without making too much noise in the background, but it goes something along the lines of he believes that his products will kind of stand on their own two legs. Let me just see if I can actually read it out. Bear with me 2 seconds.
And also, wasn't he launching the market as well, another platform?
Yeah. So he's launching another platform, but so he's sent a message out. Clearly, there are detractors around these strategy tokens. I've seen a lot of stuff that Beanie's been putting out. I like Beanie. I respect him. I've got burnt on a couple of his projects that he did in 2021. I'm an adult. I made my own decisions, and I do respect his takes. They're very original, and he thinks for himself. But I think on this point around these strategy tokens, I think one, he's negative, and I think two, he's probably wrong. However, I'll read out a post from Adam that he's put on here. You can hate the strategies all you want, but every step I've taken with TokenWorks has been with the ethos of crypto in mind. And as much as I want to hype up the strategy platform, all of my creations have been product first and usually are innovative enough to stand out on their own. What do you both make of that versus actually, if you're running I know he's got the crypto ethos in mind. He doesn't want to be the arbiter of selecting these projects. But for me, this is a momentum and an attention game. So surely it's about going, let's find the biggest communities that have the most attention and we can get them in here. So those network effects are stronger versus maybe some of these, I guess, not beta plays, like the Nakamigo card they did an EOS, they did a strategy token on that one recently. So I'll get your thoughts on that. But what are your thoughts on, I guess, the selection criteria around some of these projects?
Burge, what are your thoughts?
I'll go to you first, Simon. I'm just finishing
Well,
up.
Go on. I'll tell you what. Go on.
No. Do you know what I was just going to say in relation to that whole sort of that message is I'm feeling that there's no need to move for him, and I'm sure he's not really doing this, but to move into a defensive mode.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I don't think that needs to happen. I think it's about just not ignoring people, because that really helps to, the people who contradict you. I always say is that phrase about, having people who don't agree is probably one of the most useful things you can have when you're moving forward with something. But I don't think he needs to move into any form of defending his position and saying, I did it for this, I do it for that. That's just my opinion. I feel that he can just move forward with this.
I agree. I mean, what he's created here is fascinating. And the conversation I had with Drew Austin was he felt that Adam may have been surprised himself that he had done this because some of the other stuff he'd done hadn't taken off. I think we have a whole bunch of people here. There's 10,000 Punk Strategy holders and a whole bunch of Vibester holders and Chimster holders, and there'll be more that come to the ecosystem who want to support this. But we've got the PTSD from the last cycle. A whole bunch of people outside the ecosystem think NFTs are scam. But here you have a way to speculate on the price appreciation of the NFT, which is the underlying asset, at a really low entry price. You put $10 in, you put $20. So it's a low entry price, bringing more people in. I would, Adam is far more smarter than I am. So we'll just caveat that. I'm a commentator around these sorts of things.
But not me.
No, not you.
No, I'm a genius.
I love that. Well, not smarter than either of you, but I would be just a bit more intentional around posting.
There are a lot of people. I'm kind of saying,
there are a lot of people that don't know much about him. Obviously, we know snippets around his stuff at pre-mint. He had some stuff to do with Xcopy. He tried to launch some bots and a few other things, but these are just sound bites on the timeline. And if we could get him on an interview, that'd be good. Now, there's 188 people in this live stream, so if you could put some public pressure on Adam, that'd be great. It's not going to be a hit piece. We love
get him to join now.
If he wants to dive on, we'll send him a link. But yeah, I just wanted to shout out Sersky in the comments. I know that you've been a Punk Strategy fan for a while now, and you've been repurposing my content, which I really appreciate. Just for the 190 of you that are in here, I run a newsletter called Carrot Lane, and I'm doing deep dive content around Punk Strategy, NFTs, and crypto. And it's free to subscribe. All you have to do is go to carrotlane.com or the link in my bio. If you want to upgrade as a paying subscriber, there's extra benefits there as well. But what we've done between the three of us, Harry and Simon are community members of Carrot Lane, and we're planning on trying to do this on a weekly basis and grow it into something really significant, and kind of be a voice of the people, of the crowd, and kind of talk about the things that you guys are interested in, which is awesome.
Good time.
Go on.
we could segue now if you want to head over
No,
to Q&A.
Bird, you wanted to say something before that?
No, I was just
Okay.
gonna say, I mean, like you were saying, we want to discuss what you guys are interested in.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the time to move over to Q&A, and I don't know what you're
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
Jaden, whether you want to segue over to that or you wanted
Yeah,
to get to know first.
well, no, we can do that as we kind of go along. Have you, guys? This is the first time we're doing this. I'm aware that with the StreamYard, it doesn't pull most of the comments through. So I'm seeing some of the comments online. If you could do me a massive favor and just repost this stream out to folks. Obviously,
Yes.
for a first stream, getting 193 people is insane. I think there's more that aren't pulling through from Substack.
Yes.
And obviously, I really appreciate the support with it. If you've got any questions, just put them under the live stream in X and it should pull through. Right, Birch?
Yes. Yeah. We've already seen a few comments from Cersei, Franklin. Appreciate that, Martin. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions for us, feel free to drop them in the live stream on X or on Substack if you're there, and we should see them pulled through on StreamYard.
Awesome. Simon, have you got anything back from Substack?
I'm just having a look now, actually, just to see if I can see anything there.
So I'll go back to Martin, who's on LinkedIn. He's asked another question. Why is the punk strategy or PNKSTR mechanism structured to only really function when there's huge consistent trading volume? Doesn't basing the project's long-term survival on that constant buzz introduce major stability risks? Thoughts? So it's an interesting question, and I think the first thing to do is to actually understand that it's a permissionless protocol, so it doesn't operate on feeling or you say based on the project's long-term survival. It's going to survive forever because it's a mutable mechanism or protocol that's now decentralized, and it basically doesn't have a middle person operating it. But it is a function of, and this is how the Jenga works, it is a function of the CryptoPunks NFTs. So if the CryptoPunks NFTs drop, the punk strategy drops because people kind of think, well, the floor price has got further away from the protocol tokens. But the other element of this, which is why it's kind of like fucking 4D chess, is the NFTs are also a function of the Ethereum ecosystem. And Ethereum is very sensitive to financial conditions. So you have this tower of Jenga, and I know it sounds really risky, but I'm struggling to see where the fucking risks are because it's pegged to the most sought after asset or an apex asset. But what it actually comes down to is financial conditions. Financial conditions rule everything. I think when the interest rates come down, we have less of this tariff drama. We've just had the end of the government shutdown. I think when they improve and financial conditions improve, people will have more money in their pockets for spending on these things, and more attention on the space kind of leads to a reinforced loop of attention buying, until these people get so far down the risk curve that they get into these, let's be honest, obscure assets. I don't know my yoga teacher, my yoga instructor walked past me the other day, and I was writing a blog on punk strategy, and he's a great guy, and he always shows interest in what I do. I told him I'm a writer. It's kind of different. There's not many writers out there. And he said, oh, so what are you writing about today? And I didn't want to be patronizing and say, look, I can explain this to you, but it's just not going to land. And he said, try me. So I said, okay. Turn my laptop round. I've now got the punk strategy chart, which is like a heart rate monitor like this. And obviously I'm talking it through it, and I'm saying it's this permissionless protocol, and it works as a flywheel, and it arbitrages the price appreciation of this art, which is really iconic. And I'm dumbing down the language. And as I'm talking to him, his eyes are glazing over. And I'm like, fuck. And the realization is that person is so far away from buying this asset, which is going to have an issue with discoverability unless you're in the ecosystem, is my view on it. He owns a bit of Bitcoin. He has a Coinbase account. So it's kind of like, okay, so those are my thoughts on it.
And actually, Jane, just one thing on that. As I said earlier, it reminds me of me, yesterday with my lovely friends and colleagues and trying to use them as a test bed for this onboarding of Web 2 companies into Web 3 and me hopefully helping them. And I thought I was speaking in a try not to be patronizing, but simplifying everything.
Yeah.
But they just weren't interested. Literally, one of my friends, Marsh, I could see he was nodding off almost. I thought, great, this is going well.
Do you know what that is, Simon?
I talked about the what he said is I need you to communicate it in a clear, simple way that really resonates with my world.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in your nerdy angles on this, and I'm not interested in the detail. I was just listening to what you said then about it's a protocol, and then it does this and that, and he's probably going, "What? I don't know what that really means."
Yeah.
And when you say decentralized, yeah, I've heard about that, but what do you really mean? So it's almost like you don't. The feedback I got was invert everything you're saying and start with the benefits to us and what we can see
meet them where they're at.
Don't start with the educational stuff, which is boring us to death.
This is why I needed
we'll
you
ask
there,
you
mate.
later about that. Yeah, well, I'm still trying.
I'm surprised
to
you teach communication. In fact, you should teach communication. You're really good at it.
I'm thinking I might one day when I grow up, I might do that.
It's like I was reading up about this, and it's like, and I don't know what the psychological thing is, but it's like the the video with the guys. It says at the beginning of the video on the caption, count how many times the basketball is passed. And there's 3 people and they're passing the ball between each other. And you're there counting. But what you actually miss is a person in a gorilla suit run past the entire scene. And then at the end of the video, it goes, did you see the person in the gorilla suit? And everyone goes, well, the first time I watched it, I was like, no, I never saw that. But that's how people are looking at these things. Because there's, like you say, Burge, like meet them closer to where they are and kind of just slowly. And in fact, another good strategy is just to do fucking nothing because it's just tiring. The whole convincing. I
know.
Convincing people is a thing. Guys, we have.
Gary talks about that.
Yeah. Have conviction, don't convince. Guys, we've got 232 people in a live stream. This is our first ever live stream. You guys are superstars. Like you two are all stars. I've got if you've got any questions, just drop them down in the comments. This week I'm working on a punk strategy blog, and also I'm doing a piece on Good Vibes Club. So make sure that you either go to the link in my bio or go to carrotlane.com and just register as a free subscriber, and you'll get it in your inbox. And I'm covering a couple of other projects. I've already done Chimpers. You can see that when you subscribe. It would really mean the world if you did, because it's how we're going to grow this, which is amazing. I just want to segue slightly. The strategy tokens, I think, are a good way to get into an ecosystem where you want to get a feel for it.
Especially at these prices.
Yeah,
these prices are way down.
Yeah. I mean, when you say way down, are you looking at the market cap, or do you?
Well, no. So I'm just relating. I'm really talking relatively to all-time highs, which isn't really, I would say, the best way of thinking about things. But when I'm looking at something like Punk Strategy at 0.03 and where it's been to, which is 0.3, it's down 90%, and I've seen a lot of kind of FUD on the timeline of like, look, this is down 90%, this is going to 0. Maybe because it's new and it hasn't stuck around that long. But I mean, if you're familiar with the market, especially the altcoin market, you'll know everything's tanked. So that's not really a good way to form your opinion on an asset. My thinking is this: for Punk Strategy especially, some of the other strategy tokens I think are going to win. I don't know what they are. I think that's more of a guessing game. But Punk Strategy, I'm very certain on that. And right now I'm looking at that price at 0.03, and I'm thinking, even in the worst case scenario, I think that goes back to 0.1, where that would be a 3x, which would be nice, and that would be decent for a lot of people. I think this goes much higher than that. I think this goes back to all-time highs, 0.3, which then you're looking at a 10x. And then if this goes all the way to $1, which I do believe it will, that you're looking at a 30x. Now, people are they're spending so much time on X, and they're trying to scan, and a lot of people who day trade coins, especially like the new tokens, they're looking for that 25x, that 40x, that 50x, that 100x. And yet they are probably passing on Punk strategy after it's been through the riskiest time. Now that it's in this stage where it's proven, where there's other strategy tokens below it that are proven as well, that are all feeding back to Punk strategy. We've got a new platform on the way that Adam has said about. I just feel like the way TokenWorks have done it, it's been so professional. He's brought in people who know what they're doing to help him. So that's always a good sign. You know, someone who doesn't believe, oh, I can do it all on my own, it'll be fine. No, he's brought in some really knowledgeable folks to help him run it. It looks so legit. TokenWorks looks so legit, and it is. And now I'm looking at Punk strategy, and it's at 0.03. In my opinion, it's a no-brainer. And I'm looking to add at that point, even though, yes, I added as we came down, and maybe I started adding a little bit too early and didn't quite realize that the price could go down this low. But for anyone who isn't in it, or even if you are in it, to add now to reduce your cost basis, or if you're not in it and you're thinking, do I enter this? Do I put a little bit in this? I mean, in my opinion, it's a good play, but that's just my 2 cents on it. And I see all the other strategy tokens are down as well. And I just think, honestly, it's an altcoin that I do believe in, that I do believe will do really, really well in the next bull market for crypto and NFTs. And I do think an NFT bull market is coming that maybe some other people don't agree with. But if an NFT market comes, I mean, these strategy tokens go crazy. They're almost like this kind of leveraged play without being leveraged on the crypto and the NFT market. I mean, if both of those things go crazy, these are the tokens that are going to explode.
That's actually.
I was going to say, Jaden, about and Burge. One thing for me is I've become most agitated or anxious in this space when I've not known whether I'm trading or investing. I've fallen somewhere between the two, and I've tried with fairly illiquid assets, which are NFTs. I remember have tried in the past guessing where it's going, and that's just caused me anxiety. And interestingly, with these strategy tokens, you can have a bit of a play in that arena because they're more liquid if you really want to. I mean, I'm again with strategy tokens much more long term anyway, but you can have a play, and then it kind of removes that desire or itch to kind of trade, because I'm not a trader. The thing I've learned really, really the hard way is I'm an investor. Strategy tokens are fun for me. I now am sticking with the things I really believe in for the long term. And I think that takes a lot of anxiety and pressure that you're not just checking the whole time. So I kind of see them in that sense, the tokens. They're my fun arena, if you like.
I mean, I think the strategy tokens, I see them as like Burge says, a leverage bet on the NFTs. And I think there's a lot of people that kind of despondent whether this will work or not. And I think the only question people need to ask is, will the NFTs in the protocol sell? That's the only question you need to ask, because that's the thing that's going to ignite the flywheel. So it's like, do I believe that those crypto punks that are mostly condensed between a 50 and a 60 floor, or 50 and 57 or whatever it is, do I think that those NFTs are going to sell? Then the question becomes, well, where were crypto punks last cycle in 2021? It's like, well, the floor price was like 125 Ethereum or something like that. It was $500,000 for a crypto punk. So there's a huge ceiling on this. In a bull market, they get repriced in Ethereum because it's a whole bunch of people who bought Ethereum way back when for $80. So actually spending 50, 60 ETH probably isn't that much. But for you and I, and we live in the real world, we're kind of looking at that fiat value. And my thing is, it's obvious. It's literally obvious that those punks are going to sell. Like, I would bet my right arm on it. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it is going to happen. And it's like, the beauty of Punk Strategy is the fact that your downside to zero is protected by the punks and the protocol. Whilst you don't own fractionalized ownership,
Yeah.
it's still something that you can kind of, like running I guess like a product-based business. You got some product on the shelf that you can sell to keep the thing running. So that's how I'm kind of looking at it. I think it's a good one. I think it's a real good one.
Yeah, I agree.
But the underlying thing is it's sustaining attention. And it's like, oh, look at us now. We're fucking talking about it. We had a whole bunch of other things to talk about.
Yeah.
There are so many rabbit holes to go down in this space.
I know.
If you're passionate about this space, you can just that's why meeting up with people, and having these community get-togethers is fun, because you're all connected by that. Obviously, you get to know them in a more rounded way, but you all have that in common. You enjoy exploring the innovation, the creativity, the possibilities, the storytelling that NFTs can bring. And I think, here we are, just having this conversation because we want to.
It's good. I love it. I'm just gonna, unless there's any more questions from the audience, I'd really appreciate it if you chuck them in there. But just kind of coming towards the end now, how are you guys viewing, I guess, the next 6 to 12 months? Like, how are you personally allocating to crypto, or do you prefer to stay in cash or stables? How are you thinking about the market, Burge?
I mean, for me right now, I think I am quite a risk-tolerant person, and I'm looking to make plays. A lot of the time, I like to put a decent amount into a position where I think, yes, there's risk involved, but I think the chance for high returns outweighs the risk that I'm taking on.
Yeah.
And honestly, Punk Strategy, coming back to that, Punk Strategy is that for me. And what I'm seeing right now in the market, if I look at the stables, right, and I compare it to maybe a month ago, right, before we had this kind of liquidation and the crash, the stables aren't down so much, but the altcoins have hemorrhaged, and they're like down, they're down crazy amounts. And so when I look at Punk Strategy, whilst, it only really sustained that all-time high at 0.3 for a little bit of time. So it's probably, I wouldn't say it's 90% down. I would say maybe it was more sustaining around 0.17, 0.1, between 0.1 and 0.17. So it's down. I mean, it's got to be down at least 60, 70% at 0.03 right now. And I'm still bullish on it going to $1 plus. So for me right now, that looks like an insane play where potentially putting in, $100 or $1,000 now could return me a 30x in the next, and I believe it will be in the next 6 or 12 months, maybe even shorter than that, really. I mean, I think a crypto bull run is going to happen, and an NFT bull run is going to happen within 6 months. I mean, I'm even thinking one of them or both of them is going to happen within the next 3 months. So for me, I almost feel like this is like almost the last chances to get in at such a low price. And I'm honestly looking to move around some things, maybe even sell off my gift goat, which I've held for 3-4 years. Sell off my gift goat, maybe buy 1 or 2 Series 1 VFriends NFTs to kind of, hedge. I don't want to miss any kind of run that VFriends has. And I always want to be part of that ecosystem as a Series 1 holder. But I'm looking at maybe, shaving a little off the top there and moving that into Punk Strategy, just because I think that, that could then end up being 10, 20, 30x, which would make it more than a good play. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really obsessed with Punk Strategy. And that's kind of, I'm always curious. I'm always willing to look into new things. But when I find something and I really believe in it, I often find actually I kick myself when I don't really put my money where my mouth is.
It's interesting. I think this comes down to a self-awareness thing, and obviously, like the differences between you and Simon. Obviously, Simon's more like the set it and forget it, which is kind of what I lean to a little bit, but I kind of fall in between. And like Simon, you perfectly mentioned it earlier, is like the worst place to fall is sometimes in between, where you're kind of trading a little bit, because you kind of unknowingly trade out your core position sometimes. So it can be one of those things, but obviously that's something that Burge wants to do. Obviously, I would never sell my gift card. I just get too much PTSD because do you remember when people were saying about because one of the gifts they thought was going to be a Tesla, and like
yes
I know it sounds, so just for those who aren't a part of the VeeFriends ecosystem, Gary V launched this NFT and he called it a gift code, and it was meant to be like the all-time token, and people were going to get these great gifts, and they did, but the market didn't respond to some of the gifts. I thought the Beeple artwork was literally all time, because he didn't at the time. I think his lowest floor price for an NFT was like 30 Ethereum or something, and the market didn't respond.
And it's on the collection as well. You've got people on, like they made sure they did a collaboration, and so you know that people it's on the metadata. I mean, so it's not just like an NFT that people has done for VeeFriends. You know, they collaborated. It's a complete collaboration between VeeFriends and Beeple. So it's the cheapest people out there. It's the alpha. I saw someone posting about it the other day.
Yeah, no, you saw me posting about it, and then someone else
probably you, and then someone else copy posted.
So
you two love your VeeFriends so much. You know, you're making me one day invest in VeeFriends. So, you know, you're actually, it's like hypnotizing me in.
No, it's not peer pressure unless you actually do it. So come on.
That's true. What I was going to say is a final thought for me was it's quite comforting to have those sort of top 6, or be involved in many of the top 6 altcoins, and just have that as a kind of, bizarrely, even though of course it's probably just a sort of my imagination thinking it feels secure. It's not really necessarily, but it feels that way. But with the NFTs, where I'm looking is just to add to what I still really believe in right now. So it's quite not, if I can, you know, Claynosaurs, for example, I want another one of those. Chimpsters, I want one of those, because it just feels that's where I'd be happily to move money out of some NFTs to move into those. This is kind of consolidation for me, this period with NFTs. Great opportunity just to move into a bit more of this and a bit less of that.
I like it. I mean, my personal thoughts are I'm not buying NFTs at the moment. However, I want to lean into some of the communities, and an obvious one is going to be Chimpers. I think they're next on my list, and I like Tyler so much that I do want to buy a Good Vibes Club. He's such a warm personality, and you just think, hey, he's such a likable guy, and you're like, right, okay. And you talked, and the thing is that there are people who do the altruism thing, but it's like altruism with lipstick on, fake stuff.
It's a bit manipulated.
When you speak to him and you understand that he's community driven, community first, and he's doing everything for his community, and I just love the way he explained that they didn't launch in 2021. They could have launched in 2021 and made $5 million with their eyes shut. But they decided, no, we're going to go the long route. So they've gone through the whole bear market. They've missed the 2021 hype phase. And they're like, no, we're going to do this properly because we want to lean into quality. And then off the back of that, they have a revenue generating business who've, by the way, done stuff on, they've done some of the features on Messenger, which you've probably engaged with. I mean, I was going to get the button on here, but I don't want to show my messages on Messenger. But the stuff that you engage with, there's some of the stuff they've done, and they've done a lot of like television ads and stuff. It's amazing. And, you know, like I keep thinking about this, like why, you know, in 2021, all we had to go by was a roadmap on a website, some fucking PDF thing that someone posted on a website. And then it was like, everyone was amazed by it because this is the only thing you had to go by. Oh, this is what they're going to do by this time, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to grow this. This is going to be the IP, blah, blah, blah. Until people got a bit more thoughtful and going, hold on a second, this actually comes down to the founder's ability to do this. I think there's going to be an even more thoughtful meta this cycle, and it's going to be screw all of that. Let's see what the business is doing. So instead of raising the money first and then going, oh, we need 3 years of runway to grow the IP. Well, let's see a business first. Then you launch an NFT project with a strategy token in a fair launch way, and you market buy it with your revenue from your business. And that is the model. And if founders aren't going to follow that model, run a fucking mile, because the NFT odds are so against you. Because, you know, like I wrote a thing, and I'll let you dive in there, Simon. I wrote a thing the other day about, and I got all the data on it. Out of the NFT projects, if you had between 2021 and 2023, there were 73,000 projects. 69,500 went to zero. Most of them founder, or all of them founder-led. All the historical stuff still had some turnover, whatever. Most people are in 10 NFT projects. So if you're in 10 NFT projects, I put those odds in against the failure rate of you just picking those 10 blindly out of a hat. And it came up with all the things that are more likely to happen. You're more likely to get struck by lightning on your birthday twice. You're more likely to win the Powerball 600 times than all of those 10 projects. I mean, so then when you put it in mathematical terms, you're like, hold on a second. The odds are so fucking stacked against me here. I should have PTSD when these new things come up, and I shouldn't get stuck in an echo chamber because I think it's good and blah, blah, blah. The framework is, okay, I don't know anything about the founder because I haven't met them, but do they have a business that's performing? Yes. They're launching an NFT project. Are they leaning into the strategy token, which is, I think, another safety signal, because it means that they don't want to pillage the TGE and have it as an extraction event from the community. And I think those are real signals to look at over the noise, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think at a very human level, that interview you did with Tyler, a few things come through which are really telling for me about, and maybe I'm being a little bit a romantic here when it comes to my criteria for investment. And I do a lot of research, and I do get involved with the communities beforehand. But human beings do signal things to you. And when he was ending his conversation, he was all the way through really calm, open, lovely smile, just a really good energy about him. And you said, I know you've got to go in a moment, and I won't keep you doing it. He said, no, don't worry. He said, what have you got? And they said, oh, my children and my wife or my partner just out there waiting. I was thinking, God, this guy is staying fully present for you when he's got this there. And I know, he must go, but I just thought he didn't say agitate and say, right, I've got to go now. I've got other things to do, another meeting to go to. He was just fully present with you. And that's kind of how I read people as well. It's about the human being, obviously the business, obviously everything else they're doing. But ultimately, it is down to the human beings in front of you. If they come out to meet you where you're at, that makes a huge difference to me.
Yeah, I love it. Burge, anything to close on, my friend?
Well, a few things. I think we see a lot of doom and gloom on the timeline. A lot of times we also see misinformation, people, picking up. I remember there was a post just recently talking about the British government limiting UK citizens holding stable coins. And a lot of people grabbed that headline and were like, oh, look, this is awful. You're going to be limited to only having £20,000 of stable coins. But it was only they didn't read the article. They never clicked in, and it was only for sterling denominated stable coins. So anyone who has USDC or USDT, which is what most of people have when we're referring to stable coins, not affected. So I do think there's a lot of doom and gloom. I don't think you should be affected by it. I think last point I'll make is the market is very irrational. The market jumps all over the place. I don't think you should look at the price of an asset and base your opinion on what the price is today. I think it's better to have your own intuition, try to trust that as much as possible. Even if you end up making mistakes, your intuition will get better over time. But I think make your own opinion based on the knowledge and the research you've done of an asset. And when it comes to something like Punk Strategy or TokenWorks, which I don't want to keep hammering on about, and it is something that I hold, but I really do think I can't see anything, just like you said earlier, I can't see anything that is a negative that's going to go wrong with it. And the price, and yet the price is down so much. And so for me, that is just a situation where the market has mispriced it. And that's something that I want to take advantage of. And that's why I'm probably going to add to my position.
Love that. Love that, my friends. Folks, to the 275 of you that have tuned in, that is the end of our first ever live stream episode. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you want to follow along more, some of the written research that we do off the back of this, please subscribe to carrotlane.com, or you can just go to the link in my bio. I'm doing a Punk Strategy or follow-up to the viral Punk Strategy blog I did a couple of weeks ago. I'm doing that this week, and there'll be one on an NFT project, either Good Vibes Club or VFriends, which I'm really looking forward to. But for now, we'll catch you guys next week. And Burge and Simon, thank you very much for joining. And I know
great. I enjoyed it.
The first time I've ever done it, so here we go.
Yeah, really appreciate everyone tuning in. And we're always excited to keep doing these. And I had so many more things to get to, but we'll discuss it next time.
I love that.
Absolutely. It's been great to have a chat and speak and talk through what we love.
Love it. Nice one, Simon. Appreciate you guys. Cheers, Burge.
Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.